What you are about to hear are witness accounts of encounters with the Chicago winged humanoid, as recorded in the archives of Phantoms and Monsters website.
It looked like a great big
The
bat.
wingspan was 12
The
feet
being
and
looked like a
leather-like.
6-foot human.
When we heard a very loud
It looked like a
scream.
man bat and was at least 6 feet
It
tall.
had
This
human-like
thing
arms
was
and
like this
legs,
monster
a demon,
bat spread
and
open its
not
hand
a
in the
man.
back.
and was
backyard.
looking
The
directly
creature
at us
was
with a pair of
approximately 7
glowing
feet tall.
The eyes were bright
eyes.
and seemed to glow from within. April 15th, 2017, I was out on the lake with my husband and two other couples celebrating a friend's birthday. We were about 2 miles out on the lake just off of Montrose at about 10. We were enjoying ourselves when I happened to look up and saw what looked like a giant bat. And not like a fox bat, which I looked up and saw was the biggest bat. This bat was as tall as my husband, who is 6'4" or even bigger. It was solid black, with eyes that seemed to reflect the moonlight. This bat was blacker than the surrounding night sky and perfectly silhouetted against the moonlit sky. This bat circled the boat 3 times in complete silence before heading off towards Montrose. It quickly blended into the night sky and was gone in seconds. After the object was out of sight, we sat there looking around in stunned silence. I began feeling this overwhelming sensation of dread and told my husband that I felt that it was prudent that we get off the water as quickly as possible.
It was Saturday, June 24th, 2017, and the time was like 10:30ish at night, and we were walking hand in hand towards our house. When we were approaching the intersection of Wrightwood and Lakeview, my husband noticed something flying above us, headed toward the west. It was flying like 15 feet in the air and moving along at a really brisk pace. It looked like a giant bat, but it was like way larger and solid black. I mean, it would have been almost solid black if not for the 2 glowing red eyes staring back at us. My husband said that, like, whatever it was not of this world, and if it was undiscovered. But, like, he was absolutely speechless and could not provide an explanation to what we saw.
On Monday, September 12th, 2017, at about 10:30 p.m., I was leaving work and walking down the street toward Millard Avenue in the Little Village neighborhood of Chicago. As I was walking, I saw something that looked like a large person but had huge black wings and a pair of glowing orange eyes. At first I thought that it might be a large owl, but as I got closer, I realized that this person was at least 7 feet tall. My first thought that this was the devil, and started praying as I walked. I kept walking because I felt that if I stopped, I was going to be paralyzed with fear. As I got to be about 20 feet from where it was standing, it let out a very loud screech that sounded as if it was trying to warn me before leaping up into the air and taking off in the direction of West 25th Street. I watched it disappear into the night and continued saying my prayers as I walked toward home.
This is April 27th, 2017. I was out with my son by the banks of the Little Calumet on the northwestern side of the Hedgewish Park. It was about 7:30 when we packing up our gear and we heard something that sounded like train brakes when the train's slowing down. The problem was that there was no train going by at the moment. We heard the sound again and saw something fly from our left towards some trees on the other side of the river. This thing was unlike any bird we had seen in our lives. It was solid black and had to be about the size of a full-grown man. It had wings that must have been 10 feet from tip to tip. It flew up and out of sight within seconds. We couldn't really get many details as this thing flew like a literal bat out of hell and was still on the other side of the river. We packed up our gear and got the hell out of there as fast as we could. We didn't want this thing to come back and see us there. Because, we weren't supposed to be fishing there in the first place.
I think that there are some truths out there, as Allison mentioned. Our friend Jack has interviewed some people who have seen strange things. They have not seen, what I would like to point out is that the people that he's interviewed, they're not seeing this, classic Mothman that's being reported in almost every other sighting, where it's this black bat-like creature with glowing red eyes. The things that people have seen have actually been a little bit stranger. So I think that there are always going to be strange things happening regardless of where you are. I just think that's nature. We call this paranormal, but I really believe it's normal. Right. I really believe it's everywhere, and it's a very normal occurrence of nature. So I think that there's a lot of flooding the water that's happening here. I think that there is either people just wanting to get their fame or get a hoax out there to try to trick investigators. I do think that it's possible there are also cases of misidentification. I don't know what, fame he thinks that we're all getting out of this. We're actually spending our own money to research and go and do these things because we're genuinely interested in the truth.
So the narrative seems pretty apparent to me, which is that, there's a Mothman, and we talked to a guy who's like, I have all the answers about the Mothman. And we sort of did our own poking around, and it didn't yield much, and it's almost like, it feels like a foreshadowing to their realizations, where we're like, this doesn't really seem to align with what we've been told, and then as this is happening to us, there's also these debunkings and these sort of whisperings of something is amiss here. And then we talked to these women that were we also really wanted to believe, and we heard all these crazy stories, but we did our own research and found that there's not alignment. And so there's these two kind of versions of this story where it's there's this crazy Mothman, and then it's all a hoax. But maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. Right. Is what they're saying of there are a few accounts and they're really strange.
I really like that. That really puts us on the fence, which is what I'm hoping.
They made a lot of really interesting points about that. Comments,
which I really liked.
Wanting to, being I want to meet a monster.
Yeah.
And, things are weird. Things are happening that are very strange, and the whole point of this is not to be to be a cynic. It's to be we have to do this correctly.
The extent and the context of these reports was probably false. It's almost definitely false. Mm-hmm. However, that doesn't, just because that's false doesn't mean that there isn't a Mothman. Right. And it doesn't mean that
the beautiful thing behind it is because Ghost Show this whole time has been taking on eyewitnesses or people who have experienced these things themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's not our responsibility to define whether that's true or not. It's our responsibility to give them the platform to talk about it.
Right.
And to end on that note, I think is Ghost Show.